If you have ever thought about owning a franchise location, or you currently own a franchise location of any kind, Joe Dominiak is a guy you need to know about. Joe is an industry veteran in the franchise turnaround industry, and you have over 25 years of multi-brand experience, and you now lead franchise operations at the largest and fastest growing fencing franchise in the country. You joined Superior Fence and Rail around 2024 as the VP of Franchise Operations, bringing in a huge career of experience of reviving underperforming franchise brands, which is what you're most notably known for. And I'm extremely excited to have you on the podcast today, Joe. So thank you for coming on. I'm really excited, and anyone who is in the franchise world needs to hear what you have today. So I'm super excited.
I'm glad to be here, George, and can't wait to get deep into these details on franchising. And I will say the one unique thing about Superior Fence and Rail is it is not a turnaround. It is actually a growth vehicle that just needs a couple tweaks here and there. But it is like a Porsche ready to hit the racetrack.
Exactly. And that's one thing that I wanted to talk about too, about the transition from what you've done in the past to what you're doing now. Very different. So I want to get into that. But for a brief kind of overview, you have your career is very vast. You've got a lot of experience at a lot of different brands. Specifically here, the most notable being you had 25 consecutive quarters of same-store growth sales at Skyline Chili, which is awesome because I remember reading that they were pretty struggling when you came on. You also have a ton of experience as a U.S. Air Force captain. You were Nebraska Football Hall of Fame inductee. You got all these.
Nope, that's Tom Welter. That's not me.
Oh, okay. There we go. Good to know. But you have a vast array of experience. So briefly, can you just walk us through how you got into the franchise game? What was the initial role that you came into, and then how did you grow to doing a lot of the amazing turnarounds that you ended up doing over the past 25 years?
Well, after leaving the military, I started up with two individuals in Southern California who were absolute geniuses in the dental computer office space. What they were doing back in the 90s is what offices are just starting to do today with graphics and everything, but they could not have a language together with anybody else, right? They were at that intellectual level. So I ran that organization, and lo and behold, one of the brothers of one of our clients called me up out of blue one day and said, "Hey, I got an opportunity for you to get into retail space with the Broadway stores." So I did that. 1 year later, almost to the date, we get a notice saying that Macy's is buying us. Federated stores were buying us, and that we would have a short period of time and we need to go elsewhere. And my phone rings again. And there he is with me saying, "Hey, I got a interview set up with you for Taco Bell." And at first I kind of joked and I said, "Taco Bell, what did I do wrong?" And he laughed and he goes, "Fortune 50 company, be there, be on time." So that's how I got into the space of operations that led to franchising. So I spent a lot of time, 10 years with Taco Bell Yum Brands, and then went and joined a franchise organization. And that's where I really learned franchising from the owner's perspective, and really got the appreciation that in order for any enterprise to be successful, the franchisees have to be successful, and they've got to be successful on that bottom line. And the way you get to the bottom line is the top line. So it's kind of that win-win balancing act between franchisee and franchisor. At the end of the day, the franchisee's got to be the winner so the franchisor can grow and be robust.
Yeah, let's talk about that, because you spent, almost 25 years in restaurants, which are arguably the most operationally complex franchise category you could get into, right? Like no hate to restaurants, but me personally as a software guy would not want to get into a restaurant. And it's super labor intensive. The margins are crazy thin. There's a real-time fresh product that is extremely intricate in actually putting together. You have perishable inventory, and then you kind of walk into fencing, what what was that mental shift? What broke in that mental model when you got there? And what did you kind of why go into fencing? I mean, 25 years in restaurants, you must have built a great name for yourself in that space. What's the transition there?
So in and out, I did have other opportunities with like Camp Bow Wow and that, but business is business, whether it's selling pizzas or three-way, four ways in Skyline, whether it's burgers or it's fencing, right? It is a people business. There's a process, and then you have to have that product, right? And the process part with being the EOS, which is Entrepreneur Operating System, is something that I grasped onto probably 12 years ago now. And that makes that transition pretty simple, right? Because you're taking this business model platform where you have strategy and an implementer, cut it into the rocks and go. So whether it's pizza or whether it's fencing, food, fence, it's all the same interchangeable pieces. And at the end of the day, you got a P&L, you've got a product, and you always have what I call the three greens in it. Your consumer, your customer has got to want it, be willing to pay for it. The operators have got to be able to consistently deliver it, and be able to train others to be able to consistently do it. And at the end of the day, it's got to be profitable. So whether it's food or fencing, it all boils into those same buckets. And it was just a natural to come in, because one of the other things in my food career was being with founders or following up right after founders, and having the honor and the privilege to work side by side with Zach Payton for the amount of time I did, and now to earn his trust and garner his trust to be able to take over his brand is just an amazing a feat that I'm very, very proud of and appreciative of Zach.
Yeah, yeah, 100%. And in the restaurant, you talk a lot about being a people first business, which is true. I mean, I think any service related business, regardless of the product that you sell, it's called a service based business for a reason, right?
For a reason.
That's the whole that's the product, right? You just happen to sell burgers or fencing or software, whatever it is. So I completely agree with you there. And you talked a lot about how a lot of the people that you focus on helping succeed are the actual franchisees themselves, not only in revenue, but also bottom line. And so in an industry that is notoriously thin for margins and for bottom line growth, how are you able to take some of these struggling brands that you were working with in the restaurateur space and flip that around, that change that you could really see the franchisees say, hey, we're actually happy now, we're doing well, things are working, it's the system is flowing?
Oh, the first thing you got to do is you got to go out on a listening tour, and you've got to be able to, with an uncluttered mind, you got to be able to come in, you got to be able to listen to the key stakeholders, right? Whether they're employees or franchisees. And you have to understand where they're coming from, what frustrates them, what gets them excited, what motivates them. So I usually go in, and when I first meet people, I have three questions I ask them. I'm like, why do you keep coming to work? What would stop you from coming to work? And if you were the CEO for today, what would be the one thing that you would immediately either change, stop, or continue doing, right? And if you ask those questions long enough, you start seeing patterns and trends. And then you start putting together that 10-year strategy and 5-year, 3-year, then the 1 year. But it really starts with being on that listening tour and really connecting the dots of what people are saying, why they love the brand, right? So that's your motivation. That's your niche. That's why customers are loving you. And then you find out what's frustrating them, because those are the things you got to change. Because when you can change frustration, to me, frustration is passion, right? If you've got frustration, it means you have passion. If you're just, oh yeah, nothing in the world, then you know what? Enough we can do for you, right? You're just existing in this world. So I love when people are frustrated, because that's the passion coming out and being able to pull those roots. So it's really about, again, long answer is listen, and then make strategic decisions. Don't make the strategic positions and decisions until you really listen, understand, what the DNA of the brand is, and what the potential is.
Yeah, 100%. And you seem very much like a process driven person, right? You have a process for how you approach a lot of different things. I mean, even just in the past 10 minutes of recording, you've given me like three-step processes that you have for thinking about different scenarios. How do you come up with these? Do you come up with them yourself? Are you just that type of person who's analytical and process driven, or do they come from somewhere?
Actually, I had a really good mentor in Taco Bell named Brolick who really drove that process. And we hear people talking about today, right? You can only do 3 to 5 things well, and the rest just becomes noise and minutia. So I always try to bucket things into threes and do them very well, and then move on to the next three. So it just internally clicks with my DNA. And it keeps it simple. And another great thing about three is, you've watched, George, in the industries, right? People get paid a lot of money to make things very complex that are very simple. And the fun part is I get to come in behind them and make it simple again. And it's amazing how when you make it simple, you get alignment. When you have alignment, you have positive momentum.
Right. Simple scales. That's something that I always live by.
Yes.
What are the 3 things that you think Superior Fence and Rail is really good at?
I think we are very good at the quality of our product. We are very good at our consumer reputation. I mean, we have over 45,000 reviews, 5-star reviews. Our reputation is the most important thing to us, because without a reputation, you have nothing. We do a very good job of making sure that even if we stumble, we come back up, and we overperform and over-index for that consumer, so we get that good review back from them. I think the other thing we do is we have a unit economic model that makes franchisees money fast.
Let's talk about that a little bit. What does that model look like? If talk about it as much as you're allowed to, but what is the difference between a Superior Fence economic model that brings in that cash quickly, other than any other franchise, really?
Well, I think there's several ways that we attack the business, right? We have a very detailed training program for all of our new franchisees that they go through, and it actually starts in a selection process, right? We select right. Our friends select our franchisees right. We look for the certain traits like Drew brought in and others bring into this brand, where they're self-goers, they're self-motivated. They have a vision. Drew talks about, recently where he's going to be 19 million, right? Those are the folks that we want on our team, not the folks who will tell us what we think we can make. We want the ones telling us what they're going to make, right? We want our eyes going, wow, good. All right. So that selection happens. We have a great training and onboarding program. We've got staff dedicated to really getting that success. But the thing that really separates us out there is that consistent drive that we are there to take care of the homeowner. We are there to take care of the property manager of a commercial project. We're there to take care of the lead contractor and a lot of large sites, right? They're our customer. We're there for them, and we're going to go out of our way to give them more than what they've asked for at a very fair and reasonable price. And our business model aligns to that. All the tools we have was our proprietary software system where everything comes in and comes out. Working with us with Nail AI, right? Where we look at that technology, and we're always staying ahead of technology to make everyone's life simpler and easier. And we can get those friction points out, right? So partnering with you, how do you get a call coming in when all of our frontline staff is already on the phones talking? We don't want to lose it, right? You come in, your system comes in, it's almost seamless. People most time don't even realize that they're not talking to another person, right? But then that lead goes right into our proprietary software system, right? So seamless, flawless, everything forms out of there. And then we can go from a customer making a phone call all the way up to signing a contract with our proprietary software trackings and measure everything in between there. So a franchisee knows what are the key metrics that are going to accelerate their business, and what are the key metrics that if they're not paying attention to could decelerate, and then how do you turn that deceleration around? And even though we have over 114 locations, we still have very much one-on-one times. Franchisees can schedule one-on-one P&L reviews. with Zach and myself. So, we still have that touch. We're not going to give up that personal touch. When you combine all those factors and this quest to always stay ahead of technology, that's what you can't get from your Chuck in the trucks, and that's what you can't get from our competition who is out there. And we actually view competition's flattery. We know there's a lot of folks regionally and nationally trying to become the next superior fence and rail, but we're superior and we're going to remain superior because we are focused on looking at what does fencing look like in 2030, not what does it look like in the third quarter of 2026.
Right. Looking very far ahead. And I love just the fact, and this is something that I was able to see a lot during the Ignite 26 conference when I was there speaking and presenting about Nail, was the level of connection that the brand has with its franchisees and the level of connection that the franchisees have with each other. I've seen a lot of franchises where that's definitely not the case. And just by the tension of the room and the way that people communicate with each other, you can tell that there's a very strong business relationship there, but not a very strong personal relationship there. And obviously, Zach Payton has done an amazing job at curating that over the years. And you have been able to take that even further and really just dive in. And I love how you guys still do one-on-ones, because I mean, at the end of the day, some, spreadsheet guy might say that it's a waste of time. And, based on the money that you could bring in doing other stuff, your time is more valuable spent in other places. But it's an 80-20 game when it comes to that sort of thing, right? Because there's a large part of the success of Superior Fence and Rail that comes from that connection between the brand and the franchisee and the trust that you guys have. And so even though, yes, a 30-minute P&L review with a location might not on paper be the best use of someone's time, but it builds a intangible connection that almost is invaluable. And so I love that. And I've been able to see that throughout the time that I've spent with you guys, which is awesome. And I want to talk a little bit more about the shift that you've made from restaurants into Superior Fence, but not even just in the industry, more about like you said in the beginning, that this wasn't a turnaround for you. This was something that there was already a speeding car and you were just hopping in the passenger seat, right? So, I mean, you've in your past career, each time you've walked into a brand with some real operational debt, right? Where they're truly struggling, there's something going on, the unit economics aren't correct, the franchise economics aren't correct, whatever it might be. I actually think it's funny that you were had a brief time at Camp Bow Wow, because that's what we use over here in Boulder. We always
there we go.
We were at Camp Bow Wow, so I just texted my partner and I was like, "Oh my God, this guy I'm on a podcast with what's the CEO of Camp Bow Wow for a little bit?" And she's like, "That's hilarious." Anyways, but when you got to Superior Fence and Rail, this brand wasn't broken, right? I mean, they had grown 572% in 2 years from the starting franchising, and it's a very different shift in mindset, but also a different shift in operations of what you're actually tackling. So what was the first thing that you looked at when you came into Superior Fence and Rail?
Well, it's the same thing. I'm looking at the systems and processes that they have in place and then getting out there and talking to the franchisees, right? Because it's very true to say a lot of the other brands had mountains you had to clear out. There's molehills here, right? And with that rapid acceleration and growth, some things do get left behind, right? So it's trying to make sure that what we left behind is intentional, and if there's anything in there that is going to impact the brand going forward, that we pick those pieces up now and we take it, right? Because we had a lot of franchisees come in at the exact same time in that window of time, right? And they go from a new aggressive business to a maturing business. So how do you get them to keep the gas on the pedal and not get complacent, right? So those are the things that you look for. And what I love about it is this is like move forward 18 months, 2 years to any other assignment, right? Because I'm at that point where it would take 2 years to get to, 18 months to 2 years to get to. I'm getting there day one. So now it's all the fun part, right? You're figuring out how are we going to maintain this growth? How are we going to put this growth on steroids? And how are we going to make sure that the foundation it's built on is solid and is going to grow with us? So, It's those same processes. You're just doing them at a different level, right? Because in each phase of that business, you're still doing these, right? You still go on your listening tours. You still go out there and try to stay focused and aware of what's happening out there. So it's like coming in 2 years ahead of time
Right.
from where I'm normally coming into.
So the playbook is essentially the same no matter what. You're just coming in at a much later stage than you would have at some of the other brands.
Right. We still need to know where we're going to be in 10 years, right? And in 10 years,
Right.
this brand's going to be $1 billion top line brand. So, the goal now is to figure out what do we need to do today so that in 10 years we're there, right? What do we need to do a year from now so that in 10 years we're there? And that we don't just wake up in 10 years and go, oh, geez, we missed the mark, right? So everything's intentional and everything is basis. And when you can get the entire brand knowing that we are going to be a $1 billion top line brand, and you can talk to each one of franchisees and you can talk to them about what is going to be their contribution to that. And then how do we help you get to where you need to be? Because at the end of the day, we need you to be successful to get to that $1 billion brand. You need us to support you so you can be successful in the here and now and get to where, what is your 10-year $1 billion plan number, right? So it's all these pieces come together. And going back what you talked about with the, the time spent at the P&Ls, right? We're in a relationship business, no matter what, right? And how we treat our franchisees is how we expect our franchisees to treat their homeowners and their contractors and all those folks, right? So it's not, sign the FTD, sign the agreement, open up and see you later, keep your checks coming in. No, we stay close because we want you doing that the same. If you role model that leadership, if you role model that relationships through results matter, that's what you're going to get as the culture of the system.
Yeah, 100%. 100%. I want to talk a few growth numbers here because you mentioned something really specific that I want to touch on. And just for context for people who are listening, the growth numbers of Superior Fence have been absolutely staggering over the past 5 years or so. In 2021, the brand was at around 36 operating units and scaled to right now just over 114 operating units, but plenty more available locations, and a lot of them are smaller, starting up and getting going, right? A lot of territories have been sold that are just waiting to get going, and that's about 250 right now across 45 states. And you guys hit $1 billion in cumulative system-wide sales in June of 2025, and earned a #1 spot on the Franchise Times Fast and Serious list in 2025, which is a metric of measuring the fastest growing franchise in America. And you were also ranked 137th in the Entrepreneur Franchise 500, and obviously first in the fencing category. So this is a very serious brand that I don't like. They get publicity, but like this is a very, very serious brand. And the biggest piece that I'm seeing is there are other similarly sized, also serious brands that do not take the same level of care and do not take the same level of personability to their customers, right? The franchisees, that Superior Fence does. And so with all of these big numbers, great. Big numbers are always fun. We always love big numbers. And $1 billion in 10 years, also great. Love big numbers. How do you go about seeding that vision to these people that you're building these relationships with? I mean, seeding the vision and saying, hey, this is where we're going and we want you to come with us and you're going to help us get there. How is that so different? And what do you guys do differently, actually tactically, to seed that vision that a lot of franchises don't do?
Oh, so you want me to give everybody else out there the key to taking us down? But I will just say that it has to start at the top and it has to be genuine. And you have to be able to connect with your people, whether it's frontline employees, guests. And my #1 guest is every one of the franchisees, right? Yeah. And you've got to show them what's in it for them. And when you can show what's in it for them, and then you can back it up with true support, right? People grow the most when they fall, right? And we learn the most when they fall, right? Do they get back up? Do they stumble up and take their time, or do they just stay laying down, right? So how do we provide that support when they're down? Everyone loves winning and everyone loves the high-fiving. I think one of the things that sets this brand apart is we look for when you fall down, how do we get you back up quick, fast, and then get you ready to fall down again on something else? Because every time you fall down, you learn and we learn, right? So Uh, it's a journey. It's an alignment journey. And as I mentioned too, it really starts with the selection. If you take a look at Zach in the very early days, he had a very set criteria who he would allow in license or franchise, and we maintain that today as we go through. I've been involved in brands and seen many of brands who, if you could write the check and the check wouldn't bounce, you're a franchisee, right? That's not a successful franchisee. That is a franchisee.
Right.
My wife and ourselves were part of a franchise system who took a turn at the leadership top, and they went to, if you could write the check, you're now a franchisee, and it destroyed them, especially at a critical time when COVID came in, because they had people who had no business belonging in the business now trying to figure out how to do a business through COVID. So it's really that selection piece, who we bring onto this team, both as our employees and our FBCs and our support staff who's supporting the franchisees, but also who we allow to be a franchisee. And then who we mutually part with, right? Because, it's like kind of like speed dating and dating, right? Divorce is at about 50% in this country, right? We're never going to get that far. Well, we never want to do that with our franchisees, but there are some folks that, it's oil and vinegar, and the best thing to do is help another franchisee take over that territory and help move those folks out.
Yeah.
So we're looking
And
at
I
the
think
business in all aspects, right? And how do we help everybody at whatever level they're at so they can achieve their goals?
right, right. And that's something that you guys talked a lot about at Ignite, was letting the successful, mature Drew Raymond style business, giving them the support that they need and letting them grow at the stage that they're at, while at the same time offering a completely different level of support and a completely different set of expectations to the new upstart who just bought the territory and who's just getting up and running. Right. And so
Yeah,
I think
situational leadership.
exactly. And I love how you said selecting and you don't use the word hiring, because I think that that's kind of like that's your thing, right? I've heard you say that in many other places, especially when you were worked in ARC group, and you use that term a lot, because the relationship goes both ways, right? When you're hiring, it is very one-sided, and it's very much so you are bringing on a person to do a role, and less so bringing on a person to help seed the vision, build the company, what you actually end up trying to do in the end, right? And the framing makes obvious sense in hospitality and in a lot of other industries where culture is a lot more visible in the guest interaction, right? In the actual customer interaction. And this is where I think a lot of home service businesses, franchise or not, fall short. But in a fencing company or home service in general, the guy swinging the post pounder at 7 a.m. in the mud is a lot different than the front desk lady that you greet at a hotel or the concierge, right? Very different. Same basic role, right? Same in the company, but it's a very different process. Do you think that a lot of, I guess a better question would be, why do you think that a lot of blue collar field labor or tough love type of jobs, right, type of businesses, fall behind in that framing of selecting instead of hiring, instead of what you guys do, which is a lot more purposeful?
Well, I think we have very clear criteria of what we expect. We've all gone into the hotel, right? A Marriott's a Marriott's a Marriott's a Marriott, right? And you go into one Marriott and you get there at 3 a.m. in the morning and you get blown away by the person, right? You go to you can actually sometimes go to that same Marriott at 5 p.m. and be like, wow, you're having a bad day, right? So it's really, setting that expectation that the number one thing that's most important to this brand, the number one thing is our reputation score. It is not the top line. It is not the bottom line. Those are, the outcomes of that reputation score. So when you are talking to installers and you are talking to sales folks and you are talking to purchasing agents and warehouse folks, we're talking about what role they play in that reputation score. And if they can't get excited about it and they don't come with an attitude of, hey, I want to be part of something bigger than I am today, then we don't select them. And chances are they're not selecting us either, because, we ask a lot. Now we compensate very fairly. We're still able to keep our margins. We have buying power, purchasing powers, and all that allow us to control our costs. But at the end of the day, we pay for performance, we pay for metrics, and the number one metric is our reputation score, flat out, period, end of day. And that's what separates us from everybody else. We're not, the bottom line is an outcome of a lot of hard work that gets to that 5-star rating. We have offices out there in 2025 that had over 250 5-star reviews. Those are the offices that are successful. Those are the offices that drive others. Those are the offices where when you get to your annual meeting and folks' eyes are going, I want that. I'm going to get that. It was interesting talking to one franchisee who said, I only had 150 5 stars. How many, take any one of these business models out there, how many one location operators, one territory operators would even have 150 5-star reviews and go, I only had?
Yeah. Usually
That's
they're on Facebook saying, we've got 150 5-star reviews. Yeah.
Right. Yep. And so I think that's what separates us. And that also drives us, right? We have to keep the system fueled. We have to keep the system pumped. We have to keep the gas in the gas tank so that everybody has the tools and resources to get those 5-star reviews. And nobody can come back and say, I didn't have this, that, or that in order to do it.
Yeah, 1,000,000%. I completely agree. Because at the end of the day, and this is what I think a lot of people miss, especially now, because the mechanical work is getting so easy in the marketing world. Like it's very easy for someone to go in and do the mechanics based on the technology and the tools that we have today. But what a lot of people don't realize is your marketing is essentially just a amplification of your reputation, right? And so if you have a poor reputation or even a mediocre reputation, your marketing is only going to amplify what that is. And so all marketing, regardless of its paid ads, if it's organic, if it's earned media, whatever it is, your marketing is just a function of what you do on a daily basis to build that customer experience, build that customer loyalty, and have that 10 out of 10 thorough completion of a job that all of us want to have, right? And I think a lot of people miss that because they see people talking about, oh, just go run these ads and run this creative and have this and do that. And then boom, and then you're going to get this big return and you're going to start growing and you're going to do whatever. Cool. But why, at the end of the day, is someone going to choose Superior Fence over Joe Blow down the street, right? Why is someone going to trust them to come into their home and put up this fence and protect their home and do all these things? It's because other people have had similar experiences that have been positive, right? And if you as a brand or you as a company, whatever, aren't taking all of your energy to make sure that that happens first, and only then using the tactics and all the tools and all the fancy stuff to then amplify that experience, that is why people like Superior Fence win. And that is why also you come to these conferences and hear people say, I only have 150 5 stars, right? Because that is ingrained in the mindset of not only the brand, but also the franchisees, right? Where that is the most important thing and everything else will trickle down. And I think that that is just the right way to look at things. I have a mentor, Dennis Yu, who is actually just here in Boulder. We just talked about this exact thing for my company, for Nail, right? Of leveraging. I was like, oh, well, we need to get more clients and we need to grow and we need to have, what's the tactics here? And he said, stop. He's like, what are the numbers, right? So I broke down all the numbers of like the results that we've been able to get for our clients. And he's like, why are we not putting more energy into amplifying this, right? What's your current baby, and making sure that those people have the best experience, the best possible results, and the best possible product. And then why don't you just do that and then spend half the time then amplifying that? And I was like, oh my God, great. So the fact that we're sitting here talking about the exact same thing in a completely different industry is beautiful, because it shows that it's across businesses, right? It's across industries, no matter what you do. So that's why we say service-based is called service-based for a reason, right? And so I think that's it shows in not only the success of the brand, but it also shows in the way that you guys carry yourselves in the day to day. And I absolutely love that.
Right. And that's why we partner with folks like you, right? Because uh, like our lifetime guarantee that we give, right? You have that. You have that relationship. For everybody out here listening to this, George is like available 24/7. I see the emails that go out to him. I hear the franchisees talking to him. We're talking to him. Zach's working with him. George and his team is very responsive. They listen. They're adjusting. They're working with their other partners because it doesn't work in a silo. Like I mentioned, we have our own proprietary software. Everything comes together on. So George, you exemplify why you started with one brand, but now there's 9 other brands within Empower knocking on your door to say, "Hey, what you got here?" And it's not because it is because you've got a great product, but it's also because you've got great people with passion who are dedicated to that product and dedicated to the reputation of your company. And that's what sets everyone apart. When you can be dedicated to the reputation, you can take a good product and make it great. And you and I think we share the same opinion that marketing cannot market what ops can't execute. And if it's anything else, it's a lie, and people see through that immediately. And that becomes the death of any company.
Yeah, and we see that happen all the time, especially in the tech space. I mean, I see that happen day in and day out. You get a bunch of VCs together and they pile in a bunch of cash and they build this product and they start marketing. And then 2 years down the line, they're half the size of someone like me who bootstrapped the thing from his college dorm room. And you think, why is that? Well, it's what we just talked about, right? They spend all their time building the market and trying to get the traffic in when they forgot to focus on the thing that they're providing to these people in the first place, and they forgot to focus on the end result, right? And I had this conversation with our head of operations, Zach, since yesterday, and I was like, what is the end goal? Like, at the end of the day, what are we here to do for these people? What is the point of our service, our product? And it is to capture opportunities that would have otherwise been missed, capture revenue, right? And so when we sat down and we're working on these analytics and pulling a lot of data together to provide that to you guys so you guys can make more informed decisions, we're sitting there and I'm like, if we are promising our customers that we are going to capture revenue that they would have otherwise missed, we better damn sure report on that revenue that we're capturing. And we better sure provide all of the data and all of the analytics and all of the insight that we have around those numbers so that they can then make better decisions, not necessarily about us, but enable them to make better decisions about their marketing, about their operations, about whatever might be happening in an individual location. And so we have this exact same conversation, and I see that every day, even in home service brands, right? You have this big brand that comes out with a bang, and they have all of these marketing assets that just flood their market, and then 2 years later, nowhere to be found, right? Because they've spent so much time getting this brand set up, right, from a marketing perspective, from a tactic perspective, but they forgot to focus on the actual customer, which is crazy to me because I'm like, guys, what are you doing? What are you doing? That's what you're supposed to do. So I applaud you guys for taking that perspective. And you did mention something real quick that I want to dig into, which is your in-house software that you guys have built to kind of manage the whole gamut, right? Everything that could happen in the business can get managed through this software. I mean, estimates, proposals, material list, scheduling, CRM. I mean, it's a serious infrastructure investment for a trades franchise. And I know you weren't necessarily around when they first started building this out, but coming from an industry in restaurants where the tech stacks have been fighting the same battle for decades, right? And we and you both know what that looks like, right? Where do you see the benefit to a trades business, which historically has never really done something like this at your guys' size in terms of building out a proprietary system, right? Where do you see the benefit there instead of taking a more quote cost-effective solution in a third-party vendor?
Yeah. So the benefit is it's a one-stop shop for our franchisees. They have one place to go to, and they can see their entire business, and they can get the metrics they need for their entire business. We can also go to that same site and see it, not only for their area, but it scales up, right? It is that if you're dealing with the customer, if you're coming to me and you're buying a fence, and you come in through Nail AI captures you, right? And you come into my system, I have everything that's ever happened with you today to the time you bought your third house and installed your third fence with us. Everything that's ever happened with you is right there at our fingertips. We type in your last name, boom, we have it all. We don't have to go to one system for this, one system for that, one system for another thing. It's simplicity, right? And this is one of the things that really attracted me to the brand, and really attracted me to where I knew that Zach's vision and my vision were aligned, and we can take it to those next levels. Is keep it simple, keep it as in one place as you can, but make that the gorilla powerhouse of data, because data creates informed decisions. Otherwise, you're just making decisions. And we've all made some pretty bad decisions because we didn't have the data, where all of a sudden you get the data and you go, oh, if I would have had this, I would have done this, right? So that's what separates us. And that's why we are going, at the end of the day, Walgreens is a real estate company. They're a pharmacy second. McDonald's is a real estate company. They're a restaurant system second, right? We're a technology company, and fencing is what we sell and we do damn well at, and we'll continue between fences and railings, continue to dominate that marketplace. But it is the technology that separates us from everybody else, because anybody can put a fence in. With our technology, we know the quality of that fence that we put in. We know the price points of that fence. We know we're never going to be the cheapest fence that you buy, but we're going to be the best, and we're going to stand behind it, and we're going to be there for you all the way through that journey. And as long as we have your name or your address or your phone number in our system and your email address in our system, a territory might have sold to another franchisee as they're growing and growing and growing. Your data is there. You're not going to pick up the phone and have anybody say to you, oh, geez, well, we bought this a year ago. Your fence was 3 years ago. We don't know who you are. We're going to be able to say, hey, George, it looks like that fence was installed in 2023, and it looks like you called in once. Are you still having a gate issue? What was your problem, right? We're going to know it, and we're going to be able to have service you and help you.
Yeah, and I love that. And I think that that's such a smart thing to do when in the world of kind of what we talked about before, simple scales. There's a lot of tech companies that come out and do one thing really, really well. I mean, we are one of them. And it's so easy for companies to get distracted by those and have 5 different tools that they're using to do the job of what one could do, right? And then, so I think from just an operational standpoint, it makes everything so seamless. And like you said, everything is right in one place where you can just see it and not have to go searching and passwords and all that, because it's a lot more complex than what a lot of people think. And it's a lot more upsetting to know that you're like, oh God, I've got to search through 5 different platforms to find the information on this customer that we served 3 years ago. And it's just, yeah, I completely agree.
And we deliberately are keeping it. Oh, just sorry to interrupt you.
Yeah, go ahead.
We're deliberately keeping it simple too, right? I mean, you can imagine with 114 locations, you've got 114 different suggestions and ideas on what you can do to enhance it, right? But at the end of the day, we want this to remain simple. We want it to drive the business the right way. So there's a lot of these cool whistles and bells and shiny stars out there that may never make it into this platform. Because at the end of the day, we want this platform to perform and be easy to use and drive the business, versus having all these tentacles out everywhere else and be like, oh, look at this great feature here and this great feature here and this great feature here. And if they don't work and talk together, they just add complexity. We purposely put stops to that.
Yep. I could speak to that from experience, from working with you guys already. There's a million things that could be done, but there's only very few that should be. So I
exactly agree. Yep.
And then when we talk about AI, I mean, obviously you guys have started working with Nail, which is, for those of you who don't know, we've built a voice AI infrastructure for Superior Fence that handles their inbound phone calls, schedules appointments, answers customers' questions, all of that fun stuff. But Outside of that specific use case, where do you see AI coming into that tech stack workflow that you guys currently have? I mean, is it dynamic pricing? Is it job costing? Is it, what are some of the other ways that you see AI coming in to make the process of buying for the customer more efficient?
I think it's all of the above, right? As AI enhances and gets better in specific areas, uh, any way it can help our franchisee get the best cost, any way it can help our franchisees cut through their data better and understand where they have opportunities, right? It's always going to lower and keep lower the price for the consumer. And also when we are with the consumer, right? I mean, there's a lot of benefits of using AI assisted tools and sales techniques there that are going to help the guest, our customers, our homeowners and contractors really see and understand. And, I think, it's hard to imagine where AI is going to be even 5 years from now with everything that's coming on. But I do know that we always have to stay 2 steps ahead of where AI is today. We're never going to allow it to get to be the point where a R2D2 shows up at your door and does your estimates.
Right.
But don't be surprised of a day that a drone flies above your house and we can map it out perfectly, and
Yep.
you and your salesperson can move the fence here, there, and everywhere, and you get a very precise and accurate estimate that even if you're on vacation when we come in and install, you with your home system and us with our system, you'll be able to be in Cancun enjoying yourself. You'll be able to get on your cams and everything, and you will know that that fence is exactly where it was sold to you to be in exact looks. And I think that's where we're going to be moving to, and using the AI platforms to really help us get rid of whatever barriers there are today, and friction points between the sales process, the installation process, and the keeping you part of the family process.
Yep. Yep. 100%. Anything to make the life of the customer easier is the
Mhm.
answer there.
Yep.
So we're almost at time here, and I want to ask you one last question, but I think it's a good one. Um, you guys are now inside a 10 brand portfolio. There's Superior Fence. I mean, you got Architect Outdoor, or Architect. You got Outdoor
Mhm.
Lighting Perspectives. You got all of these great folks. David Baton of Bumble Roofing. We've had him on the podcast before. All under the same umbrella. And you post a lot about franchisees cross selling between brands on the same job site for the same homeowner. Um,
Mhm.
and historically, or at least in the media, right, portfolio plays in franchising have a history of looking better on paper than how they actually work in practice. So what do you see actually working in the Empower ecosystem right now, and how do you see that is actually improving not only the experience for the customer but also for the franchisee, when in a lot of cases it really doesn't?
Yeah, I think the impulse is I'm going to buy one of these brands and then I'm going to stack another brand on top and then stack another brand on top. And then you fall into the jack of all trades, masters of none, right?
Right.
I really see the benefit of this is when you master Superior, then let's see what else you can do. In the meantime, there are other franchisees in your neighborhood. Make those connections, get those introductions, work together as you're at home shows, work together if you're on a house, right? If you're walking someone's house to put a fence in and you notice that the gutters and roofing are aged, say, hey, are you also in the market for your roof right now? I know blah blah. Here, I recommend this company right here. I think that's where the real success comes in. The bundling on top of each other. Um, we'll get there one day. There's no doubt about it. We've got some folks who can master that and do it. But it does create a divide. It does create a division. And my advice to everybody is master what you're doing, because there is a lot of fencing that needs to go up in your area, residential, commercial, and otherwise. Make those partnerships with your peers. The good news is that we have an infrastructure Rolodex that you can help own that house once you go in and put the fence up, where you are also known not only as their fencing expert, but you are also known as their go-to person when they have other jobs that come out, because you can make the introductions that they're going to believe in and trust. So, and then one other great aspect that we didn't touch on it today is we are moving into Canada.
Oh
So the
yeah.
Canadian expansion will be happening very shortly. A little early come out of pipeline, but I do believe we have our first franchisee in the pipeline, which he should be announcing anytime now. It's a little
That's
peek
awesome.
under that tent. And then, that gives us a lot more territories to sell, a lot more things to replicate and duplicate what we're doing, and to get us to that annual $1 billion mark. So, and bring more people into the family and give more people, I look at it this way. When we select each other, you're not buying a fencing company. You are buying a generational wealth builder. This brand can generate your wealth for generations. And it can take very good care of your family. It can pay your bills. It can pay for college. It can do a lot of stuff and create that generational. And we really would love to see when, 10, 15 years from now, they're talking about my grandson, granddaughter in the business, right? And they come up and they do it. So it's generational wealth is really what we're trying to build, right? Not just a bunch of independent fencing contractors and franchisees.
100%. Love it. Well, Joe, you are like I said before, an industry veteran in the space. You have a ton of experience in the franchise world, from turning around struggling restaurant brands to coming into Superior Fence, who's a growth engine already, and just being able to skyrocket that growth with your vast experience. And you've done a lot of great things, and I cannot wait to see what you do continuing on in 2026 and beyond. You guys have big goals, and I know that you guys can hit them. And I'm super excited to be part of the journey. So I appreciate you coming on the podcast, and I know for a fact that we got some value out of this episode. So thank you, Joe.
Thank you for having me, and I got value as well. So thank you, George.